Welcome back, everyone. Today we have a post from a Reddit user who is stuck in a job that is taking a toll on her mentally and emotionally. Let's go ahead and hear what she has to say. I would really appreciate some guidance. Am I being unreasonable? I was hired at a nonprofit in an entry-level role about 8 months ago. This is technically my first non-temp job in my industry since graduating university, but I, a 28-year-old female, was a non-traditional student with previous work experience and do not have an empty resume. I am talented at this job, and there are parts of it I really enjoy, but the culture here is 100% toxic and not one I think I can thrive in long term or stand for much longer. I realize this is pretty early on, and have had conversation with my manager about some of this, but it has only gotten worse over time. I am pretty miserable, lots of feels, and want to make sure this is brief, so here are the highlights. And she has 4 bullet points in which she goes into. So the first bullet point is supervisors and tasks/projects to my plate add projects to my plate with little notice, and I'm always being pressured into taking on even more. My job responsibilities have changed so much during my time here that I spend 30 to 40% of my time on projects not originally listed in my job description. I am consistently told that I do more/better work than other members of the team, but it is never enough. Second bullet point, my department team is constantly bickering/interrupting/talking down to each other during meetings. Everyone in the organization talks crap about each other behind their backs across departments and offices, so I can only assume negative things are being said about mine behind my back. Lots of empty "we are family" rhetoric from management. Third bullet point, things like benefits, pay, etc. have been frequently mishandled. I was supposed to have access to benefits after 3 months, and I had to inquire about it to HR at the 6.5-month mark to receive any enrollment info. I've had numerous payroll issues. Things like sick time are not really respected, and I am encouraged to schedule appointments during my time off instead. My father-in-law died of the pandemic virus, and I am pretty sure my supervisor did not even mention it to anyone. A coworker lost her father-in-law earlier this year, and she received a card, condolences, etc. I feel petty for this, but I was newish at the time, and it really made me feel unvalued. I could say more, but I'm aiming for brevity, and these are my main grievances. I know that things are incredibly tough out there right now due to the current situation, and I know that if I quit without lining up another job first, that I might have to rely on my savings for some time. I've been putting my resume out there, and there have been a couple of promising leads, but no interviews yet. At this point, I'm ready to fire up Uber Eats and make it work, which is really not like me, as I'm someone who really likes to plan. Too long, didn't read. This job has really been really bad for my mental health, and I have come to totally dread work each day. Am I being too sensitive? Am I crazy for thinking of quitting during these times? Help! Well, the first thing I want to say is no, you are absolutely not crazy. It sounds like you have plenty of reasons to be upset or angry. The nonprofit world can be really frustrating. I know. I worked in it for 12 years. In the nonprofit world, your job description can really be boiled down to one line, and that is other duties as assigned. Having things added to your plate that aren't on your job description is just kind of par for the course, especially in nonprofits. Sometimes it's not a bad thing if you're looking to move up in the organization or add things to kind of pad your resume to make yourself look better. But if there are things you absolutely hate doing and have no interest in them, it can be a nightmare. And when I read your post, you said there are parts of the job that you do enjoy, so it makes me think the situation might still be salvageable. So it might be worth doing a sort of cost-benefit analysis of your job, listing out all the things that you dislike about the jobs and all the things you like about the job, and then writing out what it's costing you. And what I mean by that is everything has a cost. When you get to do the things you enjoy, it pays you something in the currency of happiness, fulfillment, or satisfaction. When you do something you don't enjoy, it takes away in the form of frustration and dissatisfaction. If you have a surplus in satisfaction, then it might be worth taking a look at what you can do to improve the rest of the situation. You need to ask yourself, what do you want to happen? What's your end goal? Was this a job that you had planned to stay in for a long period of time, or was this always sort of a short-term endeavor? If your plan was to stay long-term, was it to move up into a higher role? If not, was the reason you took the role was to gain experience to one day get a higher role? I know you said you sort of spoke with your manager about this before, but obviously the conversation didn't work out the way you had hoped since you said things got worse. And this might be a good time to approach the manager again and then have what I'd call a crucial conversation. One really important thing to remember is when you are having a conversation with anyone, but your supervisor especially, is to make sure they know your intent right away. Sometimes, even if we are dead serious and know exactly what we're talking about, the other person may not interpret it the same way. You may have been stating grievances that needed a resolution, but they could have interpreted it as you were just letting them know and you weren't looking for some sort of follow-up, or you were just blowing off some steam, whatever. You may have to say, I want to have a conversation with you regarding the issues I talked with you about. And then after that conversation, you need to say, maybe we need to have a follow-up in 2 weeks and I can let you know how things are going. When we get emotionally charged, we tend to think internally and not externally. It's normal. It's a defense mechanism we use to protect ourselves. We just have to remember that a lot of people usually aren't on the same emotional level that we are. What drives you insane about somebody may not be an issue for someone else. That's why speaking with intent is so important, so they know where you stand. If you do speak with your supervisor, keep things data-driven and try not to be overly emotional. I'm not saying you're an overly emotional person, but I'm saying just keep that conversation, even keeled. Believe me, I have made the mistake and I've gotten the reputation of being just a complainer before. So even when I made valid points, no one took me serious. Take a look at how your job is affected by these added responsibilities. So has the quality dropped because you're focusing on a million other things? If so, be ready to explain that it has and that you need more support or resources to do all the extra work. The conversation might be something like, when I was responsible for X, I was able to produce Y. But since I've now had A, B, C, and D added to my plate, I'm only able to produce half of Y. I was hired to produce Y and also increase Y, but because of A, B, C, and D, I no longer can do what I was hired to do in the first place. So I'm going to need some extra help, or is there a way that we can restructure this role so I can be more effective, or I'm not going to be able to produce what you need me to. For your second point about the issues with others in toxic environments, whether you're a manager or not, we all have a role to play in the culture of an organization. So in the book Crucial Conversations, there's a great quote that says, "Sometimes we choose personal safety over dialogue. Rather than add to the pool of meaning and possibly make waves along the way, we go to silence. We're so uncomfortable with immediate silence that we accept the certainty of bad results to avoid the possibility of an uncomfortable conversation." So the important thing is to not be afraid to cause some waves by calling out bad behavior. Let people know that gossip, snarky comments, and bickering are not going to be tolerated by you or even around you. Is it going to stop them from doing it? No. But you'll gain the respect of those who do care about their role, and it's also going to show your supervisor that you're putting others on notice. If you want certain behaviors to stop, you're going to have to first tell that person that they need to stop. You may need to address this with individuals one-on-one. So this isn't something you should just put a blanket statement out there in an email saying, "Dear whoever is talking behind other people's back, stop." That's not going to do anything, and it's just going to make you look bad. But, you need to go to that person and have that conversation. You don't need to just let your supervisor know that you're going to have that conversation with the person is doing it, and don't ask their permission. Tell them this is what you're going to do. It will show them that you know how to manage yourself, and also let them know that there is a problem and you're doing your part to address it. The third point is a bit tricky because I'm not sure if you are salaried or hourly. Either way, it's important if you haven't started documenting your time at work that you start to do so. Don't use their time system to do it. Make a spreadsheet and document what you're doing each day, the time you get in, the time you leave, what you're doing in those times. It will also help prove your case when you talk about the added job responsibilities. I'm assuming your supervisor is aware of the benefits and payroll issues, but if they're not, they need to be as soon as possible. It's their responsibility to make sure you're getting paid. It may not be an issue with HR or accounting. It may be how your supervisor is doing their payroll. Asking an open-ended question like, What can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Doesn't single anyone out or put anyone on blast, but it's a big issue that someone needs to be held accountable for. You're also asking if there's something you can do to help solve the problem. The fourth and final bullet point was also something I experienced. I worked for a supervisor who drove me nuts, and one year she got everyone a cake on their birthday except me. She said she forgot when I asked her, but I took it personal. When things are going bad and you're frustrated, you tend to notice the little things a lot more. Like if you're in a relationship and things are going well, you might look past the fact that the person is messy or they do something that kind of annoys you. But if things are going bad, it's like there's just one more reason that you need to break up with them. This is the same thing that you're experiencing in your job. So you have every reason to feel bad. And plus, to be honest, it's showing favoritism, which is not okay. So the big thing you have to decide is this situation salvageable? If things were made right, would you be willing to stay, or is the damage too much? What do you want to do next? As someone mentioned earlier, you might have to explain your reasoning for leaving in an interview, and that can be a gamble. So my kind of suggestion would be to take a step back and take yourself emotionally out of the situation. Ask yourself, some of these questions. Do I like my boss? Do I want to continue working for them, despite their shortcomings? If I was doing what I was originally hired to do, would I enjoy my work? Where do I want to be after I leave this job? If I stay here, will I get to that job that I want next? And if I leave, what does that do for my career goals? And in a perfect world, what do I want to happen, and what can I do on my own part to facilitate that? So self-reflection is going to be really important for you, especially in a situation like this, because even if you don't stay, you can use this as a lesson to learn what to avoid in the future. You'll also know what to ask in an interview to see what the job is really like. You can also think about, is there anything you've done or could do to make this situation better? It doesn't have to be a you versus everyone else proposition. There very well could be things you could do on your part to improve the situation. It will also help you feel better if you do leave, knowing that you did absolutely everything you could in your power to make things right. It will also give you the experience of having difficult conversations in the future, because no doubt this won't be the last time you find yourself in an environment that is less than favorable, and you're considering your options. Finally, if you haven't started already, make your plan now. But put together a timeline. Consider some of the options I've listed, and if the situation is unsalvageable, create an exit strategy. Put it in terms of, I'll try these 3 things, and if things don't improve by such and such a date, I will put my 2 weeks in. That way you can give yourselves time to still apply for some jobs, get your finances in order, and maybe salvage the situation. Anyways, I hope this helped. If you enjoyed this content and found it helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you soon.